Hello, everyone. I am James Branch, and welcome to the Overcomers Journey podcast show. We're so excited to have a special guest all the way from Durham, North Carolina. Garner?
Yeah.
Got the city's mess. Okay. Wow, Garner, that's just down the street. It didn't take you long to get over.
No, about 20, 25 minutes. There was some traffic, but it gave me a good detour. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Wow. I don't know if you had an opportunity to look on Facebook and see the posts about this young lady, but she's done some amazing things, it sounds like, according to my pastor here. And I can't wait to hear about them. And I hope that you find them very, very encouraging. With me tonight is our pastor, Reverend Dr. Larry McDonald and Jordan Harris. Exciting co-hosts, both of them are. They bring a lot to the table, a lot of experience. You've seen it before. They are natural, and I learn a lot from them, believe it or not. And our guest for tonight is Crystal Massingberg.
Yeah.
And what do you prefer to be called?
Kids call me Coach Massenberg.
Okay.
So Coach Massenberg will be appropriate.
All right. Coach Massingberg.
Yeah, no doubt.
I like that. I've had a few coaches in my time. That's good with me. And tonight we're going to be just letting it all hang out. It's going to be unscripted. We're just going to have conversations about young people, about goals, about life, about God, about our belief, our faith, and obstacles. And we're sharing those things in hope that you might be able to connect to something that resonate with your spirit, that whatever situation you're in right now, it might shed a little light, a little hope, and a little encouragement. That's what this show is about, the Overcomer's Journey. So bear with us if we just be ourselves this evening. We're just going to be open and just have conversations. So I want my pastor, Reverend Dr. Larry McDonald, to introduce the details about this special young lady, and we'll get started.
Good evening to everyone. I am elated, enthused, and very happy to introduce Crystal Massenberg. I call her Crystal because when I was the athletic director in Durham, she always distributed her faith. But she told me one time, because she knew I was the county athletic director, that her goal and aspiration after graduating from UNC Chapel Hill was to become an athletic director. We had an opening at Southern High School in Durham, and I really had a couple of people, but God brought her back to my mind. And I stopped by Merrick Moore Elementary School and busted in on her while she had kids in the class and asked her, I said, do you still want to be an athletic here? And she looked at me as if that was a loaded question. I said, you didn't answer. She said, well, yeah, but I don't think there's nothing open yet. I said, I have something open. I just want to know if you're interested. And long story short, took the job, done an outstanding job. And the most interesting and outstanding part of doing that was the fact that while she was the athletic director in her infancy days at Southern, she just had a baby.
Yeah.
And she took on a job as an athletic director that had many hats, many duties, many facets, and did an outstanding job. So without a whole lot more information, I'm going to let Crystal tell you a little bit about herself. And in South Garner, where she is now, she goes by Coach Massenberg. So Coach Massenberg, tell us a little bit more.
Well, thank you all for having me. Mr. McDonald, thank you. So like he mentioned, he gave me my start. I told him, hey, I want to be an athletic director. What do I need to do? I knew that being a high school athletic director was a lot of work. I also knew that it was a hard job to get in. Looking at other high school athletic directors, I didn't see many females. I didn't see many Black females. So he said, okay, just go over here, go shadow this person and go do this and look this up. So kept doing all that. And then, like he said, he came and got me, and then the job came open and the rest is history. So I was at Southern Durham for a few years, was able to go in, make some great changes there. And then COVID hit. And then the opportunity came open at South Garner High School, which was a new high school in Garner. So I took the opportunity to come over, and I've been there since 2020. Since being there, I have oversaw getting brand new dugouts for softball and baseball, which was a huge accomplishment while I was there. Right now, we're also getting ready to renovate our tennis courts, which is another big project that I'll be able to put my stamp on. We started new programs. Women's flag football is one of the newest ones that's up and booming, to give our female athletes a chance to get on the field and kind of do some things. But again, being athletic director, there's a lot of hats, but probably the biggest hat that I wear is being a mentor to the young ladies, to the young guys that are there. They often see my office as a safe space to come and chat. So I use that avenue as a way to kind of, give them the encouraging words, the motivation that they need to get through the day.
Okay, I see you continue. I had the opportunity to look at your YouTube video. Was it 13 years ago, I think? And you're on there. Yeah, you were talking about you becoming a teacher, your 3 goals. And
that was when I was getting my teaching license.
Yeah. And then what your principal might think. And some of those goals, I hear that you wanted to make a difference then. Yes. You wanted your interaction to be meaningful after that, connect with those individuals so that it might impact their lives. So would you say you accomplished that goal? It sounds like it.
Yes. And the biggest read that I can get is like, did they get what I said? Did I touch their life? Whenever they come back, they come back to a basketball game, whenever they come back to a football game and they find me, hey Coach Massenberg, how are you? How are things? And just to catch up, when they find me on Instagram and they send me pictures, that's how I know that I made a difference. When I can get on one student, and this just happened this week, there was one girl, maybe earlier in the school year, she's always out of place, she's always in the hallway. So I stayed on her to the point where she didn't even want to speak to me in the hallway.
All right.
Monday, she came in my office and I saw her come in. I'm like, oh God, what did I do today? I didn't bother her. She came in, she was like, how are you doing? I said, I'm good. Are you okay? And she said, yeah, I just wanted to come out and speak, see how you were doing. I said, oh, we're turning a new leaf. And she said, yeah. She said, I realized, you were just doing your job. You want the best for me. And I'm turning a new leaf, and, I have a new job. And so to resonate, and she's not even a student athlete. So to be able to also make those connections with those kids, for them to be able to see that when I'm tough on them, it's because I see more. I want more. And I told them, the moment I stop talking to you, the moment nobody says something to you, that's when you need to worry. Whenever someone is on you, that means that they see more and they expect more and that you can do more. So definitely would say I'm making huge impacts on our student athletes there.
Awesome. Well, Jordan, you work with young people too. So does that resonate, what she's saying?
Oh, yeah.
Do you have a chance to deploy some of those concepts?
I mean, one of the things I think in a lot of the spaces that I occupy with like teachers and educators and just people who, do the work of like mentoring and supporting young people is that them being seen is the biggest thing. Like she said, when someone's not, someone is not saying anything to you or not, it's like they're invisible. And so, for students to know that they're seen and that I see you every day, I'm looking for you, I'm watching out for you, it means a lot. And I think that makes such a huge difference in the way that our students show up, because just even in, what she just shared, the students like, yeah, I'm turning over a new leaf. Like, this is new. I'm coming to you now to like check in on you to see how you're doing. And that's just, it's such a huge piece. Like, students feeling seen, feeling heard, and knowing that there's an adult that cares makes all the difference in the world.
I think that could be a cue for someone when you just mentioned that the people that's been on your back have stopped talking to you. Nobody's saying anything. Have you won? Have you really accomplished what you wanted? And that is for nobody to talk and deal with you. You need to turn that around. So anybody listening, that's something to pick up on, because you need to reevaluate that. That's not where you want to be. Any young person in the school system looking at this show right now, whether it's live or later, keep that in mind. You want to have somebody pouring into your life, encouraging you, guiding you. If you're not getting that, change direction. Would you agree with that, Pastor?
I would agree with it 100%. I was in a webinar today, and one of the things they were talking about was building relationships. So when you listen to Coach Massenberg and you listen to Jordan, then that's what you hear, is building relationships. And I think that the children today want and need relationships, because a good relationship goes a long way. With all of the things that they're faced with all of the things that they're seeing, they need somebody that they have a relationship with, that they can come and cast their burdens on them and get a positive response, regardless to what the situation may have been or presented. They can get a positive response with feedback, telling them this is what you need to do from this point, as opposed to beating them down, as opposed to saying negative things. And that's one of the things in Coach Massenberg that I've always seen, is her ability to build relationship with students. And sometimes it hadn't been the best for students, male or female. And I've come in the building and I've seen her talking with both male and female, but I see respect emanating from those males and females because of the relationship that she has with them. I mean, she can trust them in her office with stuff in her office that belongs to athletics, and come back and know that it's there. I've walked in and just sat down and seen kids in there with drinks and chips and all kinds of stuff, and nobody bought them. They just left it there. If somebody went over, one of the students would always say, Coach Massenberg gonna close the office if we do this. This is a trust zone. Let's keep it that way.
Awesome, meaningful stuff. So, I mean, no one at this table has been a goody two shoes all their life, right? So you haven't always walked the straight and narrow. Most of it, maybe, I don't know. But there's been times when you didn't feel like, maybe like the people that was, you've been dealing with when you were young, when you was going in school. Share a little bit about what it was like, maybe when you.
Oh, goodness gracious. Okay.
Maybe we're taking you back a little bit.
Taking me back. It would probably be maybe college.
Okay.
Went to UNC Chapel Hill,
Okay.
which is known as a party school.
Really?
Yeah. And, predominantly whites that are there. So it was very little minorities that were on campus. So
Okay.
very easy place to kind of get lost.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things that when I got to school happened my freshman year, when I failed not one but two classes.
Mm-hmm.
My first semester, I came from a small school called James Keenan.
Okay.
Was top 10 in my class, never had to study, played sports all year round, was able just to go in, ace everything. So came to college with that same mentality, like, hey, I can go out to party on this Thursday night and be up for my 8 o'clock class on Friday, no problem. And then when those grades came back, biochemistry and chemistry hit me with 2 hard F's. I'm like, wait a minute, pause.
Yeah.
Having to call grandma and having to call mom and explain to them, that I messed up. I did not take my academics seriously. It's bigger than what I thought it was. So just being humble and knowing that, hey, I don't know it all. I do need to develop better study habits. I can balance. I can have fun while I'm here at school, but I also need to get to my books because I know that this degree is important. Because I was the first one in my college to attend, my first one in my family to attend a 4-year college. So I knew that was riding on my back. I had to graduate.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to make those changes to make, my family proud and to keep it going with this generation. So I would say probably the partying grades kind of scared my freshman year. But he got back on track quick.
I live that. I know what that's like.
You remind me of the late Coach Raymond McDougal at Fayetteville State. When I played football, he used to always tell us, there's some of you that can go to the party. You don't have to study all night. It may take, and he called out names, it may take this person an hour, but it may take you 2 hours.
Right.
But it may take them 3 or 4 hours, which means that while they're at the party, you got to be in the book.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't get in the book, you're going to leave here.
Yeah.
Because you're going to fail.
Mm-hmm.
And so that resonated in the mind and the hearts of a lot of us that played for him, because he was always on the up and up with us.
So that being the case, what are some of your new goals in this role that you play right now as an AD? I mean, what's your 5-10 year outlook?
5-10 year outlook. Right now, being that the academics was a challenging piece for me my freshman year, I wanted to make sure that moving forward, I set my athletes up to be the best that they can be. So one of the biggest things that we monitor is make sure that they're student first and athlete second. So making sure that not only are their grades intact to be eligible for the sports, but while they're playing, I'm doing weekly and biweekly grade checks just to make sure that their grades are on par. Celebrating the wins, celebrating the small wins. We opened up in 2018. We're still trying to grow. We're still trying to get some trophy cases, still trying to get some wins, but learning how to celebrate the small things. Hey, we scored this many points in a game. That's a school record. This person got this many rebounds. It's a school record. Celebrating. And just giving the kids and my coaches their flowers while they're here. Always telling my coaches how much I appreciate them, because with the high school athletic program, it's not just the AD. I have a bunch of coaches who are my frontline troopers who are able to take my vision, to take my values and portray it out to those student athletes. So just making sure that they're set up to be the best that they can be. One of our coaches has a motto, free money. So getting those athletes those scholarships to where they can go to college, because some of them, being an athlete is their way out. So just make sure that they're set up to do what they need to do. And just continuing myself to grow professional development. I recently was appointed on the board for the North Carolina Athletic Directors Association, the only Black female that's there. So continuing to grow, building those relationships. Bob Hill was another AD that worked very closely with McDonald. He's now a mentor, so he helps, hey, Bob, I want to go do this. What should I do? Oh, go volunteer here. Go see this person. Go do that. So just being humble and continuing to learn and knowing that I don't know it all. And knowing that I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I can just smooth it over to make it work for my kids, make it work for my coaches. But just continuing to grow so that I can be better, so that I can be better for them.
Right. And I hear another learning point, and that's, building relationships. I think sometimes young people, they don't understand the importance of that early, high school, early in college, building relationships, because some of those people there are going to go on to do bigger things, perhaps bigger than what you're doing. But if you're nice to them, if you can have a conversation with them, if you can engage them, hey, every now and then, how you doing? You never know what that relationship might bring, 10 years into the future, hey, where you can call somebody up because you were, they liked you. You were different. That can help when it comes to building a relationship. I hope that young people take advantage of that. I know I used to talk to my son about that when he was at NC State. You're here with a whole lot of people that's going to have a whole lot of connections. You need to be able to tap into that down the road, and it has helped. So building a relationship is critical. In terms of religion, you're active, right? Believe in God. And has that ever been a struggle in your life to where, I don't know, maybe later?
I wouldn't say it's been a struggle. I've always been a believer. Christ has always been first in my life. I grew up in a Baptist church. So I did grow up in the missionary, grew up with the youth Baptist choir, sung soprano. Can't really hit sopranos now, but I did sing soprano. So there was a point in my life, as Mr. McDonald stated, I do have 3 kids.
Okay.
They are 15, 12, and 9.
Okay.
So they're young. So there was a point where we had a whole house full of just young kids. So it was hard to get to church on Sundays. Sundays I wanted to rest. So to get me through those times, my grandmother, I could just call her and I wouldn't even have to say what my problems were. And she would know. She would know, hey, Crystal, I can hear it in your voice. I need you to rest. Or I'm going to say this prayer for you. And I'm sorry I'm tearing up, but she has been the reason why I have been strongly rooted. And she would say, hey, it's okay if you're not able to make it to church, you can still say your prayers at home. He will hear you. You can look at it online. He will still hear you. And so I think with her keeping me grounded and knowing that, okay, if I can't make it to church today because of this activity that's going on with my kids, that I know that I can still say my prayer. I can still pull up my
Mhm.
Bibles. I can still do my plan and know that I can still get what I need spiritually and still stay grounded. And I have been extremely blessed. Been married for this year will be 15 years.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. Married 15 years, 3 kids, all healthy. I've been extremely blessed. And I don't take any of that for granted at any point in day. But again, my grandmother has kept me rooted in my faith. Those days where I just like, Grandma, it's just too much. Or she, like I said, she would just know.
Mhm.
And she would whisper those prayers for me to keep me going.
Awesome. And to me, another learning point. I just want to, that's awesome, because you're never too young. You're never too old. When you have the Spirit of God within you, I imagine, especially when you get older, when you can't depend on anyone else, when you have that connection, and we hope people pick that up on this show, that's something that can get you through. That's something that when people see the God in you, they feel the connection, they're willing to just reach out and encourage you.
Yes.
Reach out and take your hand and help you get through situations. So that's definitely another reason why people need to take a look at building a closer relationship with Jesus, understanding the power that God can do in your life, and that you're not by yourself, because you always can fall back on him. And it sounds like you had some help there. What about your children? What are they doing, if that's not too personal?
My daughter's at the high school with me, so she's also actively in basketball. My son is at a middle school. He also plays basketball. And my baby boy, he said, I'm not playing basketball. So he wants to try flag football. So they're physically active. Out of those three, the baby boy is the most involved in church. When I get up on Sunday mornings, I currently go to Springfield Baptist. Mama, where you going? I said, I'm going to church. I try not to force it or, on the kids. I just let them kind of come naturally. I want to go with you. And then recently he said, whenever they would do altar call, they would call people up to the front. And he recently said, well, Mama, I want to go up there. Like, I want to get saved. And I'm like, wait a minute. Hey, we're going to call Grandma first. I need you to have a conversation with her so that you can know exactly what that means.
Right.
Because again, I don't want him just being thrown up there just because he sees other people doing it. I want him to know I'm doing this because this reason, and I want to do it. So again, we're having those conversations with Grandma just to make sure this is what he wants to do. He's 9, but to see that in him this early, I know that he's going to be a good one.
That's awesome news right there for me.
And listening to you and knowing that Grandmama has always been your guy.
Yes.
There were times that she would call me crying because of some of the things that going on. And I would always say, you're going to make it. It's going to be all right. Talk to Grandma. And to hear that you're still making those connections. And so for your son, one of the things that we try to do here at St. Paul is we try to talk to young people with their parents and with them. One of the things that the late Reverend Lonnie Horton, who was my mentor, always taught me was make it plain. Make it as plain as you can make it so that even a baby understands. Right. And it's kind of funny, and Jordan and we're gonna laugh because my biggest responders in the church are my babies. Because I believe that if you make it so that the baby can understand, the baby will force the rest of the family to come on to church. Right. And you have to do that. That's why I told you about June 10th over at Dix Park, and having some programs that are relegated just for the young folks. One of the things about the program at Dix Park, Jordan's mama is on one of the chairs of the committee, and she will always ask about the children. She will always make sure that as we're preparing things, children are in the forefront. And Dudley Flood and I were together on Monday at Earl Reese's program, and we talked about kids. And Dudley is probably close to 90, but he still has that young pride attitude. You know, one of the things that they used to say is, you'll find all of my better students in the front. And that's one of the things that I picked up on as I taught school, is trying to get the better students to sit at the front. And so when we talk about athletics and merging athletics and school together along with your faith, it becomes a natural, it becomes natural, I put it that way, so that you know that you're not in this struggle by yourself. If things are not going the way you thought they were going to go, you can always talk to the Lord along with your parents. And if you don't have good parents, if you're in a school, I would recommend talking to Crystal or whoever your athletic director may be. Or if you don't have an athletic director that you can talk to, find somebody in the building that you can build a relationship with. Because if you listen to Coach Massenberg, she's built relationships all through her life that's still sustaining her with 15 and 13-year-old children.
So, on a day-to-day there at the school, you know, what is it like in terms of dealing with the staff and other coaches in the league taking you? Do they always take you serious? Has your reputation, like, now they know? they don't even question it anymore?
Yeah,
what was it like in the beginning?
In the beginning, it was tough in the beginning because I was new, because I was young, because I was black, because I was a female. I had so many exes going against me. But Mr. McDonald, the first thing he said was, "Go get your certifications." What's certification? So researched it. He was like, when you go this place, you can take this class. So they have different classes in professional development for high school athletic directors. And so they have two different certifications. They have CAA and then they have CMAA. So within 2 years, I was certified CMAA to prove to them, like, I know the books. Now let me show you what else I can do. So again, yes, we just did our realignment. So we are now moving from 4 classifications to 8 classifications. So that has kind of been like the biggest thing that's going on now. So with our conference, you have to, choose officers. So I am the president of our new conference. And I think that, again, that comes with my peers respecting me showing like, hey, let me volunteer. Let me take the lead on this piece. Let me lead this meeting. Let me show you guys that I can do it too. And by me doing it, and not only doing it well, I have gained respect from my peers. I'm also one of the state leads for our mentoring program. So there's other new ADs who can, give me a call, shoot me an email, and just have, general questions to where I can kind of give my feedback or mentor them. So again, just giving back. So it was done for me. I was mentored coming up through. So it's only right for me to return that favor.
Okay.
Let me interject something.
Okay.
We gave you the initials for everything, CAA and CMAA. Getting a certified athletic administrator's certification, it's like being nationally board certified. Not only do you have to take the classes, you have to sit for a national exam, and you have to pass the national exam. You can only miss about 100 questions, and you can only miss about 10 questions on that exam in order. And the certification doesn't come from Wake County. It comes from the Athletic Directors Association nationally. So you will get something nationally saying you were certified. The first 2 certified athletic directors around here was Bob Hill and myself. And then you go from being certified athletic administrator to a certified masters of athletic administration, which is, again, is still like having nationally board certified. And it's not that many males or females that are CMAA. And so when Crystal received her CMAA, I was like a happy puppy because, again, she was my child. And so I was like, you go, girl. And so it's an accomplishment. And she has done some great things, and she's had some great mentors to remind her of the things that she needs to do to receive it, and I'll say it since she put it on the table. It wasn't DEI that got her to where she was. It was her hard work. It didn't have anything to do with diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think a lot of times we get lost. When I'm talking about lost, I'm talking about politicians and other folks get lost. There's some things that we still can't do because of the color of our skin. And DEI was an opportunity to level the playing ground. But just so you understand, DEI wasn't all that it was trumped up to be for African Americans, because the leading recipients of DEI was white women. Hello?
Hear you.
Because it was white women, we were given the opportunity to be at the table, but the table wasn't given to us. And so that's why I'm totally ecstatic and proud of the accomplishments that Coach Massenberg had made, because she had to work to get there. Because I remember some of the times when she was going through, and I would have to just go by the school and encourage her to keep her from crying, because people were treating her different. Because as she said, when she became the athletic director in Durham Public Schools, I'm trying to remember, I don't even think there was another female athletic director at that time. There was some that came later, but she was the first one in Durham Public Schools. And so she had to work not as hard as everybody else. She had to work twice as hard as everybody else, because they were skeptical, and she overcame a lot of barriers. So it wasn't because there were some woke people around her. She needed some people that were woke. She needed some people that understood diversity, equity, and inclusion, but she didn't get that opportunity. She worked to get to where she is now.
Amazing. I think about that slogan with Nike, just do it. You did a little bit more than just do it. Sometimes I think when, I don't know how old you are, but I can say for Pastor and myself, when somebody told us just do it, we always just went 100%. We just we going to get this thing done, and we was not going to accept anything else. I don't know if young people are built like that because they got so much information coming to them. So when you say just do it, sometimes just do it is just enough to get by, just enough to say that I did it. But without thinking about, you need a little bit more for these reasons and these accomplishments that you have done in your lifetime. Just doing it is not enough. You got to push a little bit harder now. You got to be a little bit more determined now. And if you have that and you just do it and do it and do it until, there is no limit, because when you're done, there's more to do. You still got more things to do, right? You got a lot of plans, a lot of hope, and a lot of dreams. So sometimes just doing it, it gets us by. But the days of just getting by, I think, are gone.
Yeah.
It's gone. What do you say, Jordan?
I definitely appreciate you sharing and hearing from McDonald, a little bit about your story. Sounds like you've overcome a lot.
Yeah.
You've been a trailblazer in a lot of ways. And, I think what is so, to me, kind of what stands out about what you've shared today is just that it sounds like you're always looking back at the person who's coming after you and making sure that there's space for them and that you're available to them to answer those questions and to show them and tell them how you got to where you are. And I think there is so much power in that. And kind of like what you said, James, it's I think for a lot of people, sometimes it's yeah, okay, so she's the athletic director, so what? But if she's sharing her story, it wasn't always, I wasn't making straight A's in school. I think so many times we look at people and where they are and say they're accomplished. Clearly they were a straight A student, or obviously, it's easy for them. They just, they're just there. It just happened. But there's so much to be said for telling your story, so that the people who are coming after you see that, okay, it's not gonna be easy. It might not be
Mhm.
easy. There will be some challenges and some things that I'll have to navigate along the way, but I think there is just, so much power in sharing your story and being able to say it hasn't always been easy. Like, yes, I'm here now, and yes, I've accomplished all of these things, but there is so much power in sharing your story. So I appreciate you
Definitely. Thank
sharing
you.
that so much.
And to bring just a little bit, of politics in there, what do you feel, in terms of America today compared to maybe 10 years ago when you was thinking about being a teacher? What is your outlook on life in America? What can we do as people that look like us, Black people? What do we need to be focused on in terms of accomplishing goals, taking care of families, education? What should be our outlook?
Oh man, that's a loaded.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is a loaded question. And I guess it would just have to tie back to relationships and taking care of each other. Realizing that everyone doesn't need the same thing.
Mhm.
Some people, and I can go back to my students. Some students just need for you to say, "Good morning, Charlie," or "Good morning." So they need you to say their name.
Mhm.
That was one of the biggest things. That me and my other coworkers, we were in the hallway. I said, "Let's do a challenge." I said, "Let's see how many kids' names we can say as they walk by," because we teach PE, so they come to the locker room. So we started shooting off their names, and the kids were looking at us like, "What's wrong?"
Mhm.
But you could also see their faces light up.
Mhm.
Complimenting their hair, complimenting if they get a new hairstyle. Today, a kid switched glasses. I'm like, "Corian, you switch your glasses?" He was like, "Oh, I switched them to see who would notice." I'm like, "Yeah, I noticed."
Yeah.
So little things like that. Because a lot of our kids don't get that at home. They don't get the positive reinforcement. They don't get the hugs. They don't get the compliments. They don't get that extra push. So realizing that everyone's needs isn't a one size fits all. Building that relationship, seeing what they need, seeing what you can offer, and then also not being afraid to ask for help or say, "Hey, look, I need some time," or I need a minute to sit down,
Mhm.
or I need to pick your brain about this. So being able to kind of reach out to others, and get what you need too, so that you can continue to fill your cup while you're filling theirs.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's interesting. I can say this. I find your story um, motivating. I know it took a lot of time.
Yeah.
And a lot of determination, and sometimes I feel overwhelmed. I have a lot of things that I do throughout the day, and I question like, "Oh man, am I going to be able to keep up?" But now I think, I feel a little more encouraged just to keep right on going, man. I tell you, that's good stuff. When I talk to you on the phone, I'm like, this person is a ball of fire.
And
She is.
I was talking to you. I was sitting in the parking lot watching a tennis match. I was watching. We had a tennis match, and a soccer game going at the same time. So I was talking to you in the car. But just multitasking.
Yeah.
And doing things that you love. You know that saying, you'll never work a day in a life if you're doing something that you love. So
Right.
this is my call, and this is something that I love. So I don't go to work every day.
Okay.
I go and do what I love.
Okay.
And with the pay, you have to, because you don't get paid enough for all the hours that you're out there. You have to want to do it. So I think that makes it easier to get up every day and go through my long list of to-dos.
Okay. And Pastor, what do you think about in terms of the times that we're in, being a leader of this great church, St. Paul AME Church, young people and family, especially parents? What are some of the things they need to be focused on? Because we're in a different time right now. It's a time that, in my opinion, that's changing, where people are going to need to find a way to rely on each other, to build relationships so that we can stick together to weather this storm that's coming, an unpredictable, unrecognized, massive amount of trouble ahead if something doesn't give away. What's your take, sir?
Well, I liken where we are now to the change of time.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember growing up, and there was a tornado that came through Fayetteville. And we didn't know anything about the tornado until the next morning. Wasn't no sirens that went off at night. It wasn't anything except the next morning when we saw the destroyed houses that we realized that a destructive storm had come through. We're living in destructive times. The only difference between the destructive times that we lived in then and now is we get a lot of warning signals that they're coming. And the only help that we have is one another.
Mm-hmm.
We have to learn how to build relationships with each other and stop fighting, killing, and alienating each other. You know, if you remember back to the old movie, The Blues Brothers, I need you, you need me,
Mm-hmm.
we need each other. We need each other now more than we've ever needed each other before. God has always been our ever-present help during our time of need. And we have to stop thinking that we're an island to ourselves. You hear Crystal talking about the kids that are coming to school and sometimes how she has to be what they're missing. Well, at the same time, the church has to be what they're missing. Everybody needs somebody to lean on. Everybody needs somebody to talk to and know that it's not going any further than where they're talking about it. So we have to learn how to continue. Crystal talked about grandma, and because I know the relationship between she and her grandmother, I can always say that we need to build those same relationships, not with people in the street. We need to build those same relationships with people in the church and each other so that we can depend on each other, we can encourage each other. The Bible said we need to build each other up in our most holy faith. Well, in order to build somebody up in your most holy faith, the first thing is you have to have some faith. Faith call those things that be not as though they were. We walk by faith and not by sight. If we're going to do that, we have to have somebody around us, somebody near us, somebody we can make a phone call to, somebody that we can trust. Because we live in an age where there is no trust. Black folk don't trust each other. Black and white don't trust each other. But in God, who's an ever-present help in our time of need, God will link you up with somebody that you can trust, somebody that you can go to and realize that you don't have to worry about them talking about you, putting your business in the street, and somebody that will help build you up and take you up the ladder with them. The only place is God.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we're talking about church, we're not talking about, one of the things that Bishop Jackson talks about more than anybody else, Bishop Reginald T. Jackson, who is now the presiding prelate of the Second Episcopal District. And his thing is, God never told us to build members. He told us to go and get disciples. Disciples go get other disciples. We have to learn how to teach people to go out and encourage other people to encourage other people. One of the things that you will hear more than anything, one can put 1,000 to flight, but two can put 10,000 to flight. One of the things that I used to listen to Mike Murdoch talk. Mike Murdoch said, if you don't have but one friend, if that one friend has 5 friends, you have 6 friends. If those 6 friends have one friend apiece, you got 12 friends.
Mm-hmm.
He said, the thing that we ought to learn how to do is teach our friends to get friends. A lot of reasons why, and you heard Crystal talk about it, a lot of reasons why people get jobs is not because they know somebody. They have a friend that knows somebody. That was never more present than with Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick didn't know anybody at Carolina, but he knew Tom Tillis, the senator from North Carolina. And he had him to talk to somebody on his behalf. And now he's the head football coach at UNC Chapel Hill. We have got to learn. We have to learn to talk to other folks. Find some folks we can trust. Don't find nobody that's a drinking partner or smoking partner. Find a trusting partner. Somebody that you know got your back.
That's powerful. I do think, people being young adults, and people that are not in church. I think the church, you got to find one and stay there a while. You can't be church hopping from this church to that church because you need time to get to know the people there. They need time to get to know you, but there's nothing like a Christian brother or sister to be among them where they got your back. When you need a favor, they might be that connection that you're referring to, that they know somebody at the top. I know at this church, there are connections with people all over the country in corporate position that make a lot of money. And you just never know that's not the reason to go to church, but to be among church brethren, people that we're common interest is serving God and doing right. And it sounds like, more than sound like, you're doing that. You're building a pathway for these young minds to admire and look up to, and they see the proof. And now they can go out and hopefully make a difference, I'm sure, in somebody else's lives because of what you're doing and the way that you do it. Just like we talked on the phone, it was so relaxing, at ease to know that this young mind that I'd never met before was just so positive. So that was encouraging. We're just talking on the phone. So I see what I talk to. It matches. It just goes together. And I just take my hat off to you if I had one to say, hey, you're doing an amazing job at what it sounds like to me, because the truth, will set you free. That's something to that. It shines. It shines, and yours is shining. What do you say, Jordan?
I mean, I've enjoyed this conversation. I definitely feel like there's just so much to learn, like, from you, and just like even just hearing, your experience and your story. I guess a question I have for you would be, if you could tell your younger self something, what would you tell your?
Oh, that's a good one.
If I could tell my younger self something, it would just be to go, girl. And I say that a lot to my females at school, like, you go, I see your new hair, you go, girl, I see your new shoes, you go. I think having that positive, just you go, girl, like, just to keep going, because you go, girl can apply to so many things. I think having that motivation, because when I was younger, I didn't see anybody that looked like me in the position I was in. All of my, coaches or athletic directors were, male or white. I didn't see me. So I think just telling my young self just just keep going and keep learning, and you'll get where you want to go.
And that goes to that adage that there's strength in numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to give one plug. This Sunday after church, St. Paul is having a Richard Allen Youth Young Adult meeting. We're going to meet with all of the young adults to talk to them about what they would like to see in church, how can we go about doing it, and staying focused in God.
We're approaching the final minutes of this show, and it's really going by fast. This might have been one of the fastest one ever, I'm telling you. See what happens when you I don't have much hair, but when you let it down anyway. Yeah, that's true. But we've been having fun. This is good. But what's some things that you would like to share with the audience, especially parents and teenagers that are in high school? Some things that might lift them up, to give them a word of hope in terms of reaching success here in 2025 and beyond.
For parents, support. They know when you're in the stands cheering them on. They know when you're not in the stands. So the biggest thing that parents can do right now, with not only athletes but all students, if they have a play, take time, go to their play, let them know that you're there, go support them, and talk to your child. There are many times where me and my daughter are in the car ride, and I'll just turn the music down. So how was your day at school today? Or how was math class? So just talking, and then the next 10, 15 seconds, she's unloading. So being able to have those conversations to where it's not always, I'm talking to you to get on you, or I'm talking to you to correct you. I'm talking to you to see how you're doing, for you to be able to unload, and then the support. And also, so with the students, my advice would be, to keep going, to be your best self. Your best self is going to look different than the person beside you. But as long as you know that you're giving your best, that's all that we can ask. And not being afraid to ask for help, being able to put your best foot forward, and knowing what your strengths are so that you can continue to pour into other people's cups.
Absolutely. What about you, Jordan?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Wasn't
Jordan.
expecting that.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many, like I teach a lot of like classes around like health and health education. And so, something that has come up like time and time again with like the classes I teach where there's like parents and like mother-daughter or whatever the case might be, the parents are always asking like, how do, like, when do I talk to him? How do I talk to him? Like, it's funny because like parents are just as nervous to have conversation with their child as the child is like nervous that their parent is going to try and have a conversation with them. And so yeah, just hearing Coach Massenberg say like, yeah, like, we're in the car. You don't have to make eye contact in the car. Like if it's something that's uncomfortable or, if it's something that you're not quite used to, like, those are opportunities to have conversation without feeling the pressure of like, I got to look them right in the face. I got to sit in front of them. We got to sit down. It's got to be this big, serious thing. And so just using teachable moments, like finding those moments in your day where it doesn't have to be like, what are your grades doing? What is this happening? Like truly just like knowing, the young people in your life and having those conversations and truly just building relationship with them makes all the difference. Like just knowing who they are, knowing what they like. And for students, there are so many adults who would love to be, your person, who would love to be your mentor, who would love to watch you succeed and support you in succeeding. And so there's just, and a school building is a perfect place to find that person. Because so many students are like, I don't know, like I don't have a person or I don't have 5 adults, that I think of when I think, of my circle of support. But there are so many adults that you don't even realize are watching you and rooting for you and wanting you to succeed. And so sometimes it just takes, stepping outside of yourself enough to see like, oh, that teacher says good morning every single morning, or they always comment when I change my hair or when I do something different. Those are the adults. Those are the people that are rooting for you, whether you know it or not. So, yeah, that's huge.
What about you, Pastor?
Think back to my coaching days, which were probably some of my most beneficial days. It wasn't always my administrative days, but my coaching days. After practice, they used to always, we had some concrete steps, benches out at the back of the building at E. Smith and over at Enlow. And I used to spend time sitting out there up to an hour per day listening to kids because kids want someone that will listen. They also want someone that will be honest and give them honest, beneficial advice. It's one thing to say to a kid you're doing wrong, but it's another thing to say, well, you messed up this time, but you still have the opportunity to get it right. And when they hear that, their ears perk up. Even when as an administrator, I used to spend time listening to my athletic directors and my teachers, because one thing that is very evident, the parents sent you the best student that they have. And sometimes teachers used to ask me, well, what do you mean by that comment? They sent me their best. They sent you the best that they have because they don't know anything else.
Right.
They're expecting you to do it. And as Crystal alluded to, there's not a whole lot of money in it because our legislators aren't trying to pay public schools teachers. They're not trying to give them what they need to give because they're so busy trying to kiss up to other folks.
Mm-hmm.
And I said it that way because in a public school, you have a free and appropriate education. And you don't always get a student that came from the high-rise district. Sometimes you get students that come from places where they didn't get a meal. They don't have the right clothes. They don't even have the best conversation. But as a teacher, you have the opportunity to boost them up. You know, I get a lot of comments from some of my friends today because I'm always talking about Mount Sinai Missionary Baptist Church, St. Luke AME Church in Fayetteville, and Fayetteville State University, because that's where I got my growing ground. Dr. Roosevelt Holmes used to always tell me, you're going to be somebody. I don't care where you came from, you're going to be somebody. But, you know, I didn't have two, as my mama used to tell me, you don't have two nickels in your pocket to rub together and make a dime. I didn't have that in my pocket. But I became something because somebody told me that it was in me. And so sometimes we have to be the positive influence for someone that's coming from a not so positive background or a positive environment. And we have to give them hope in a dying situation. We have to give them hope when all hope is gone. We have to build them up and let them know that it's going to be all right. No, you don't have food. They're trying to cut out EBT and all that. But guess what? And I said it on Sunday and I'll say it again. If God can take the ravens and feed Elijah, he can find a way to feed you. I always tell folks, the raven went to Ahab's table and brought food from Ahab's table to Elijah. And God said, I'm the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. I change not. So if God isn't changing, we're the ones changing. And we need to find somebody that can build us up, somebody that can help us along life's journey.
Awesome information. Hard to follow up to, but I'm gonna do my best and share my opinion. And to the parents, and I heard it in their voices, I just want to stress that it is so important that you follow, if you can, the advice that you just heard, the thoughts, because I've had the opportunity to meet some people that are grown folks that never had a parent tell them, you know, I'm proud of you. I love you. You're special. You're going to be somebody. And to this day, they struggle with many things that we don't find challenging at all, but they didn't have that reinforcement, that encouragement, and they're skeptical about everything that they do. And they spend their life feeling like they're not enough. So if we can start now with the young people in our lives and let them know that, you know, we care about you. We want you to be somebody special. We don't want you to struggle. We don't want you to go through wondering what if. We want you to take charge of your life and know that if you believe in God, if you put him in the mix, and then relationships with people we think alike, we care about God, we care about each other, we want you to be successful, that can make a big difference in your children's life for a lifetime. That's so important.
And before we go off the edge,
Yes, sir.
I just want the students at South Garner to know one thing. That woman right there, I am very proud that I had a hand in helping her become who she is. And I'm proud of who she is today.
I appreciate it. Definitely appreciate
Awesome. That's 100%. I can tell you that.
it. Thank you.
Well, that concludes another episode of the Overcomer's Journey. I hope you enjoyed it. We did. And we have a lot of shows coming up. We are booking up with some exciting people, and we encourage you to just keep plugging in. And if you don't have a church home, one Sunday, stop by 402 West Edenton Street. Bring your children. We're looking for young people. Bring yourself, because we want to build this community. We want to let people know that this is a place that you belong, that we care about you. Just because you're God's child, I'm God's child, and together we're going to be able to overcome whatever is coming. We're ready. We're ready to stand together and take it home. Full speed ahead. Let's do it. So tune in about 2 weeks. Check us out again. It'll be another show of people pouring out their hearts about how we're going to get it done right here